Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in the fifth session of our Future-Proof Your Organization with Black Swan Capabilities from Jellyfy. This is a special session that talks about smart business resilience with smart employee and mindful leaders. So, first of all, I want to introduce who are the panelists today and the presenters. My name is Massimo Cannizzo. I am CEO and co-founder of Jellyfy Middle East, sponsor of this initiative. Marcello.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marcello Coppa. I'm a managing partner of Jellyfy and the director of innovation advisory of Jellyfy Italy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Belletti. I'm a manager at Jellyfy Middle East, and I'll also be leading the Smart Human offering in Jellyfy Middle East.
Hello everyone, I'm Michele Poggipolini. I'm the Executive Director of the Poggipolini Company, an Italian SME.
Hi everybody, my name is Funga Alexander Mapondera. I am based here in Switzerland. I am the Associate Director at Infront Sports and Media, a sports marketing company.
Very good. As you can see, we have a panel of some Jellyfy experts and also some entrepreneurs and experts of the market and companies that are at the leading edge in these topics. First of all, a few words about Jellyfy. Maybe not all of you had the opportunity to meet us before. Very few words. Actually, Jellyfy is a platform that is able to connect startups, companies and investors. At the same time, in the same company, you can find acceleration and incubation capabilities for startups, also investments to the startups itself. And we attract the investors because, of course, we build a venture capital on that, and of course the investors are relying on the investments that Jellyfy does in the startups itself. And last but not least, we provide consulting services, advisory services to public and private companies about innovation, advisory and digital transformation. In a fragmentation of roles that innovation ecosystem has, we try to bring a glue among all these parts. And on top of this, we organize this Jellyfy community, and this event is one example. But if you want to know more about us, you can go to the links that you can see in the bottom right of the slide. Going ahead in this discussion, we launched this initiative about the Black Swan and COVID-19. We believe that this kind of black swan can happen in every moment, and this means that every company has to be ready. And the COVID-19 highlighted a number of things that we wanted to share with you, a number of ideas that is a bit of acceleration of the transformations that were already ongoing, adopting innovative technology, but also a paradigm shift that is also required in order to make the transition. The next video actually is introducing to you this concept before starting the session. So we wanted to create a framework able to collect all the possible changes, all the possible opportunities to catch in this moment to face the black swan, what we call building black swan capabilities. So we divided the full company into 7 pillars and 7 areas where we defined 7 imperatives. But these imperatives and these ideas needs to be seen in the timeline. So there are ideas that can be applied, must be applied now to stay relevant, ideas that are needed now for the relaunch, for the restart of the business, and ideas that can position ourselves in leading the new normal. And this is a mix of soft and hard changes that are including a lot of advanced technology like artificial intelligence, as you've seen in the video before. Today, the focus of the session is about the human factor. So how to create mindful leaders, smart employees in order to increase the resilience, or how Nassim Taleb defines anti-fragility. We have a weekly session, as you probably know, and other sessions will be planned at the end of June. You can see at the link in the bottom of the page to have more information about this. In particular, for the smart human part, we have started to conceptualize this like this. Innovation is the lever to react to black swans. It will be also the lever to react to the COVID-19. But we can divide the players in 4 quadrants. There will be players that have an ability, a very small ability to innovate the what they do, and a small ability to know the how they do, and this we call the sleepers. And then there will be the dreamers that can do a change in the what, but they cannot do very easily a change in the how. But we have then the fighters that they want to change the how, but the how can be changed only in the what you do. You continue the status quo, and what you do, just you change the how. So you are a bit nostalgic of the white swan, so we use this metaphor. Only the black swan champion are able to do both the shifts, changing the what and changing the how. And we try to have a sort of anatomy of the character and the shape of the humans that can be considered black swan champions. We use the metaphor of the human body, but actually this is applicable to a company. I don't want to go through this because now we have a full session on this. I just wanted to highlight that what is important in this anatomy is the enhancement of very important intuition, emotional skills that before were less important in the past. By the way, we are not the first saying that. A lot about is this since 1 century, because if we go to the next slide, this Einstein's quote saying, "I didn't arrive to my understanding of the fundamental laws of the universe through my rational mind." So the intuition, intuitive mind and the emotions are very important to reach the objectives that we have in front of us. So welcome in this session. I want to pass now to Marcello, who will lead this session for the rest. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, Massimo, and thank you everyone for joining this session. I will go straight to the juice of my point. I'm going to talk about how to build an anti-fragile culture. And we have to take into consideration that this very specific moment that we are living is a great opportunity, because anti-fragility now becomes not something optional, but it's something that we have to be able to build into our companies if we want to survive and to prepare for the next normal. So anti-fragility basically is going beyond resilience. Resilience is the ability to resist to critical aspects and critical impactful events that can hit our companies and our organizations. Anti-fragility is something more, means going beyond, and means getting better and learning and improving our organizations from the changes that we see around them. So it's about adjusting, adapting, and capitalizing the experience that we have. And the core principles of anti-fragility are actually building on those of resilience. So if resilience is about being entrepreneurial, putting your skin in the game, and aiming for long-term outcomes, and being able to identify the critical aspects in your business model and building alternatives to them, anti-fragility then means being able to experiment and learn, to keep options open, and to build a flexible and decentralized organization, which can, at the peripheral points of the organization itself, take decisions to adapt to the ever-changing environment. So ultimately, what we want to build is a decentralized organization without losing control. The video that you see in the background here, it's called a murmuration. It's a particular movement that a class of starlings, this type of beautiful birds, make. There is no boss in this type of organization. There are just discipline and principles. There is one fundamental rule, which is staying alive and not hitting other members of the formation. And then everything is decided, and it's adapting to the inputs that are coming from the outside. This is a beautiful natural metaphor about how to build an anti-fragile organization, an organization that is able to adapt and learn from the environment. And this is what we need to do in this particular moment. In order to do that, we need a particular type of attitude. We call it being a smart human. Being a smart human means being able to develop a mentality of mindful leadership, and we will talk about it afterwards with Maria. It means being contextually aware, so being aware of what is going on around the company, and being able to understand and predict the weak signals about the change that is going to happen. Being purpose-driven, so having a clear long-term objective and goal that has an impact society overall, and is able to create a team of people that wants to contribute to this purpose. Being entrepreneurial, so being willing to take part into the challenge and into the bet of creating something that makes an impact. Being augmented by technology, so not being afraid by technology, being having a digital dexterity, so having the ability to understand how you can use technology to improve your own way to work, and be willing to do it, taking into consideration that technology is always evolving. So being able to and being willing to evolve with technology itself, and being a community player. Smart humans are not islands. They don't play alone. They are not solopreneurs. They are people who believe in team and want to create meaningful connections with others to go towards a common goal. It's a type of culture that is not easy to build, particularly in this moment, and we will have a few suggestions about that. This framework is actually representing our vision for a smart human organization. You see the three key components: the mindset, the skill set, and the tool set. The mindset, so developing a mindful leadership, a leadership that is aware of the present situation and is able to build on that and identify its strength. And Maria will talk about this later in depth. The skill set, developing a techno-business skill set and having the correct methodological assets to develop innovation in this changing world. And then having a background of emotional intelligence and empathy. human interaction is the key for success in technology implementation. It's fundamental, and particularly in this time when you don't have physical presence, understanding emotional intelligence and empathy is fundamental. And then we have the tool set. So the infrastructure that you give to your people in the company, it can be the digital workplace, but also the ways that the company builds to share the knowledge within the company, particularly in a moment where you don't have a physical exchange, and we will talk about that. But also the organizational design. We want to build organizations that are flexible and adaptable. And in order to do that, we need to switch to a type of management that is definitely moving beyond the principle of the previous centuries, where you had stable markets, a huge demand, and an offering that was by definition innovative. We can't principles of the historical fathers of management, such as Taylor and Ford. They used to say that every time they were asking for two hands, they were coming with a brain attached. Yes, luckily, we should say. And so the organizational design today, it's something that should evolve because organizations were built for a previous status, which is not there anymore. We need to build our organizations based on principles, and one way we suggest to manage this through time is objectives and key results, a methodology of developing people's goals and evaluation based on objectives that are connected to the corporate vision, and key results, measurable items that can be easily understood by everyone. This methodology was into Google and was very, very successful. So this is why we talk about it. How to build a culture of anti-fragility. We have 4 quick fixes during this time that will help us to build more anti-fragile company. The first one, clarify your purpose. Problem is that during this period, due to social distancing, there may be a lack of a feeling of a lack of meaning by the people, feeling of a lack of involvement, feeling of being left alone in your home and abandoned. People may lose their sense of identity. Some people are motivated by what they do. Some people are motivated by how they do it. They like to go to the office. They like to hang out with their colleagues. We have to understand this situation, and we have to reorganize our communication, not only around the core principles of managing the social distancing and the regulations and the law enforcement, but also a shared sense of purpose, building a long-term, bold, impactful vision. And if we already have one, restating this in this particular moment, it's very important. Restate your principle, allow your people to have a common framework to take decisions, because they won't be able perhaps to just stand up and go to your desk or to their desk, to their boss desk to ask for a small feedback. They will need to take decisions by themselves in this moment. And then we suggest, as we said, switching to OKRs, which is a great method to clarify what is expected from people and what contributes to the overall vision. It's, in this moment, it's a very good framework to take into consideration. Second problem, it's difficult to reach everyone. It's difficult to get real feedback from an employee base which is dispersed. And moreover, there's not one best way to reorganize your company and to build a digital workplace that allows the people to work. So solutions must adapt to your own company, but not only to the organizational chart. Take into consideration that there are informal networks within the company of people who talk to each other, exchange information, influence each other. Like in society, there are influencers. These 3 pictures show 3 different organizational network analysis of different companies and show how they are and how they can be exploited to build a specific solution for each of these companies. So you have to understand the informal networks in the company, build on them, and engage the influencer in the company into your change plan. In order to create a digital workplace that works for your own organization, you have to make it flexible. Not all the teams are able to work remotely forever. This is a contingent emergency moment, but you have to take into consideration mixed approach of people being co-located or not, and allowing peer-to-peer communication in every direction. Third aspect, every computer-mediated communication is intentional. There's no chance to bump into each other. There are no corridors, no coffee machine. If you want to talk to someone via computer, you have to decide to make a call to them. So there's no serendipity. And this is a problem. You need to exchange knowledge in your company, and you can build rituals to do that. Virtual coffee, stand-ups, lunch and learns, meet the CEO, a retrospective. In any case, be sure to involve facial communication, because that's key. The last but not least is more listening and less bureaucracy. Suddenly, we had to start working remotely. Most companies were already doing some smart working, others were not prepared at all. So it's possible that there is a drop down in productivity. In this case, it can be due to several reasons. It can be not clear communication about the tasks. It can be a lack of team planning. It can be bad time management by employees. In any case, be sure that you listen to your people. The mere fact of listening to the people and understanding needs in this particular situation creates an increase in productivity. This is proven by years of research on organizational behavior. And then be sure that you also create the conditions for managers to listen to people. Remove bureaucracy. It's a great moment to take into consideration about getting rid of all the waste that we have in our companies and create meaningful communication about people. This is a great occasion that, and I really advise you not to lose it. It's a great time to become more agile. And I now leave the space to Maria, which is going to talk through our Smart Human framework.
Thank you, Marcello.
Thank you.
So as I said earlier, my name is Maria Baladi, and I'm going to be leading the Smart Human offering in Jellyfy Middle East. As a starter, I just wanted to share a little bit more about how Jellyfy is framing this offering here in the Middle East. So I just wanted to lay the foundation and explain a bit the purpose of what is it we're trying to achieve. So as a starter, I'm going to talk about a topic that is not actually very new or recent, but for some reason it wasn't placed as a top priority in organizations. I'm not going to generalize, but no matter how small or big, it's not something that's spoken about on a day-to-day. So the World Economic Forum calls that the skills of the future. So it was demonstrated that over the next 10 to 15 years, the adoption of automation and emerging technologies are going to transform the workplace. Whether it was COVID or not COVID, the workplace will be transforming in the future. So what does that mean? Technology of the future that is led by AI or deep learning will at some point be able to outthink humans in many ways. So the skills that are in demand today will most likely be outmoded in the next 5 years or 10 years or 15. But considering that most industries are now incorporating some degree of automation in their workflows, that means one thing for us humans, that we will need to upskill and we will need to shift our skills to some extent and focus on learning new skills. So I'll take the example of COVID-19. It's a fundamentally people-based crisis. It's all about the people. Individuals are getting sick. Individuals are having repercussions on their business and society, which are enormous, by the way, and the largest we've ever seen. And it's getting exponentially stronger day by day. And I mean, the numbers in the UAE are increasing. So the CEO of Volkswagen in Spain said something really interesting that I read. And he said that leadership today, it's about unlearning management and relearning to be human. So as highlighting the growing skills, like the skills of the future, everything related to active learning, learning strategies, all of the social, emotional abilities, the augmented human skills that are related to creativity, originality, initiative, attention to detail, flexibility, and even like the complex problem-solving ones that are not the typical ones of today, will be what is important and is required from us in the future. So I'm just starting to outlay the foundation of the skills required in the future, whether it's COVID or technology. Basically, it's happening. So okay, so the father of Chinese Taoism, which is basically an ancient Chinese philosophy and was at some point a religion as well, I read this quote, which is really interesting, because Taoism is based on harmony. So they focus on harmony and balance. So it says that those who know others are smart, those who know themselves are wise, those who transcend others have strength, but those who transcend themselves have inner power. And I thought that that's a very strong introduction to what I will try to talk about mindful leadership. So what is a mindful leader? So when I talk about, because I'm very interested about the topic and passionate, obviously, I often strike the conversation amongst peers, whether it's from a corporate environment, a startup, or others. And everyone relates it to authenticity. So they say an authentic leader is someone who can be completely themselves and don't need to change one bit. Well, in an abstract way, that could be intended in the best way. But that's only a good experience if they are feeling good. Because if I'm feeling bad on a day and I'm going to treat someone as bad, I don't think that's a good experience for everyone. So authenticity, as blind as it sounds, is not that admirable or productive. So there has to be an additional layer of wisdom or thoughtfulness that should be coupled with it. So I'll give you an example. If I'm giving some honest feedback to a teammate in front of a group versus to giving it in private to him, that's basically saying I'm willing to destroy and shame someone and destroy a relationship or building a trusting one. So saying what you authentically or mean in the moment versus taking the time to think about it and think how you want to communicate it, that can also mean like speaking out of panic or creating a plan where everyone can grow of you as a leader. So what is a mindful leader? And a leader is someone who is has embodied presence. So it's someone that is aware of the present and understands how he feels and the thoughts that are happening. So it's someone that is very connected to their values and connected to their purpose wherever they are. In any organization or in any community that you're part of, you can be considered mindful leader if you're connected to your purpose and you can deliver it and build people around you wherever you are. It's someone who cultivates focus, clarity, and creativity. Like I said, very self-aware and compassionate and empathetic. Now, why are we talking about mindful leadership and how am I connecting mindful leadership to the workplace? It's funny because the word mindfulness has been very associated to someone who practices yoga or someone who meditates, and this is separated from the workplace. But it's very interesting that it all starts with the self, obviously. So why does this topic arise? Because want to be like honest or not, what we feel and what we think are often in misalignment. So finding that balance between our thinking and our feeling is a job that each and one of us should undertake and take responsibility for. So it's a choice we need to make. It's a choice people wake up and say, I'm going to start and try to be more mindful. Because, so this is a framework from Rasmus Hogard, and I really appreciate this framework because it bridges the gap between mindfulness and leadership in the workplace. So basically, as a prerequisite, if you don't open up and make a conscious choice to look into yourself and close that gap between how do you feel and how you think, everything around you might be blocked and your vision might be not clear, obviously. So as soon as you find your calm as a person and you align to your values, you understand your identity, and this is not flexible according to who's around you and which organization you're at, you open doors, two doors. So the first natural path is basically being more mindful towards other. Someone who is able to be empathetic and can be emotionally intelligent and present to whatever is happening around them is someone who's first open to themselves. He obviously took the effort to understand how they feel. So mindfulness and empathy is something that is built from mindfulness towards themselves. So the other path that arises from you to be mindful towards yourself is leadership. Once you're able to manage yourself, so self-management, to have focus, integrity, when you say something, you show up for it. When you're meaning something, when you say something, you're meaning it. That means that you're able to self-manage yourself. And this is where you can eventually start to manage other people. So if you have a vision and a strategy and you plan to be an impactful leader or a mindful leader, you need to be able to execute this leadership you have on yourself with all of the tactical and the strategic tools that you learn in the workplace in order to be a mindful leader towards your organization and others, which is, so I went very theoretical, but I was trying to explain what is the purpose and the vision that Gellify is trying to work around and to fulfill when it comes to mindful leadership offering. So on the next slide, yes. So Gellify's mindful leadership offering, like it says, so we're working from that purpose and we're taking into account individuals and teams and cultural and organizations to create an offering that will enable this leadership. And when I say leader, that doesn't mean this is someone that's an executive or a CEO. A leadership mindset is across all of the organization. So whether you're a new joiner in a company or you're the CEO, if you're a leader, it will be transmitted in the company. So building a culture of anti-fragility and adaptability in uncertain times, whether it's COVID or whether it's with the digital transformations, is something that is very necessary. And what I wanted to tackle in the last bit is what are the tools that we use? So there are a lot of non-conventional learning tools that we aim to focus on. Actually, they are conventional, but they're non-conventional in the workspace. So mindfulness practices, I think, is a great time for now to bring them in the workplace. And also non-conventional learnings like art-based learning. And I have one slide on art-based learning at the end. Yes, so basically, I'm just giving one example that we can break through traditional paradigms of conventional learning if you bring in arts, which has a great impact and a purpose externally, and you bring it together with the people and you focus on culture and organization and the purpose to enable, in a way, new thought patterns. So people and teams can start to build and experiment growth in such different ways. Like we know, like we're all learning so differently today. We don't go to the office anymore. We have everything available on the net, and art is one of them that can definitely bring people together in learnings. So thank you. I just wanted to frame a bit the Smart Human and Mindfulness Leadership offering in Gellify. And I think next is Michele, who's going to give us use case and a hands-on example.
Thank you, Maria. Hello, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm Michele Poggipolini. I'm the Executive Director of the Poggipolini Company. Just quick information regarding our company. We are an SME based in Bologna. We are leading the industry of fasteners, hot-forged fasteners for the aerospace, automotive, and also the motorsports. And also we are expert on high precision machining, so structural components. If you can go next, Marcello, thanks. Just to give you some numbers, we have 70 years of history, and the company was founded by my grandfather in 1950. Today, we are mainly working on the aerospace, so we are leading the supplier of critical and strategic fasteners, bolts for Leonardo, for example, in Italy, but also with Boeing and Safran, so with other very important companies. We are always being motivated by running through innovation as our first mission, as our first let's say, motivation, because we always bring to our company, to our customers, solutions. So we are not just, let's say, a stuck company, but we act in order to anticipate the needs of all our customers. And this is done through innovation on materials, new solutions, new design. We are 85 people, and today we have 18 engineers. So we are really an engineering and then a manufacturing company first. So in my introduction, you can go next, Marcello. I will talk about something. This is a slide regarding our new center of excellence that we have here in San Lazzaro, talking about the anti-COVID. So when the COVID came, it was absolutely a huge black swan. We are living in a very, let's say, complex situation. One of the very first thing that we have done in the company inside our task force, COVID task force, is, let's say, to try to give to all our people, to give to all our employees a very stable information and stable communication. So that's why in 10 days we were able to develop this app, and the One Team app was absolutely very important to keep all our people, all our internal community to be aware about what was happening, about, let's say, all the new decisions that we are taking into the company to protect their work, because for sure the first thing we have done in the company was to keep the safety of all our employees at the first step. We have got lucky because we never stopped our operation even during the lockdown in Italy, because we are, let's say, we belong to the aerospace industry. So that was also, let's say, very challenging as well, because we needed to adapt and we needed to create all the measures that were needed in order to, let's say, make the work of our people, of ourselves, safe. So we started to work together and around our stakeholder, our network, also working with startups. The app was developed with the startups in a very short lead time. Also the thermal scanners that we have now in our 3 plants. We have 3 major plants in Bologna, and all the plants got immediately thermal scanning app. And also, especially the one that we could see in the previous slide, this one, it's also using artificial intelligence, also because we are detecting if you are wearing or not wearing the mask, also because we started to think how we can welcome again our, let's say, customers, suppliers, and our, let's say, collaborators. That was always absolutely very important for us and key. Another very important element that today we are experiencing in the company to try to monitor, let's say, COVID. Of course, at the moment we have got any, let's say, cases of COVID positive. That was luckily, and we are running tests in the factory to all our people. But we are also installing now and testing now monitoring anti-COVID monitoring technology using wearable. So also this project was developed with a startup, with a local startup, and this is interesting because at the moment we are not only monitoring the people, the flow of the people around the company to try to, let's say, act fast in case of a positive case, but also to use this kind of wearables in the future for useful, let's say, applications. For example, we can control from our, let's say, wearable device for the operators that are working in our CSC machine tools, like milling or turning centers or hot forging machines, the behavior, so the efficiency, the OE, a lot of information, the maintenance program, all using our, let's say, wearable devices. Of course, not all the operators will have the same smartwatch or smart devices, but most of them will be capable to use all these. And all these will be also available through the app. So we really changed, I think, in less than 1 month towards a very digitalization approach through all our organizations. So not only to the offices, engineering, administration, and let's say the management, but also to all our people. So this was very important, very key to keep their attention, to let them free, safe, to let them free that they are not abandoned, to let them free that they are part of a team. So that's why it's one team. Because today, one of the very, let's say, positive things around among the whole this really absurd situation is that the team is stronger than ever. And this is very important. It's very important because we have to think to the future. We have to think to the future also on how we can interact and how we can, let's say, continue the business development with our customers, because today, without the opportunity to travel, it's absolutely challenging. So that's why we are working, for example, on augmented reality in order to keep on going with a lot of projects we have with our customers using the new virtual reality and augmented reality opportunity. Absolutely. We have to try to...
This is Massimo. I wanted to make a question because it's a very interesting project that you did. And I was questioning myself, which was the reaction of the employees? I mean, which was the kind of impact that you had on them and the reaction, positive, negative feedbacks and whatever?
They were very, let's say, happy also because in the app we have a chat. So everyone can chat with me. I'm the CEO of the company. So we have 85 people, only 25, let's say 30 people. They have, let's say, the company account, but all the others no. So now we have everyone on the chat. So everyone can write directly to me to give, let's say, news, information, positive or negative things. And we started to discuss. It was very interesting because we were not capable to see much each other for the distancing. Of course, I was, let's say, walking around the factory with the mask and everything. But that gave us the opportunity to chat also during the nighttime or off work time, okay? To see and also to thanks all the activity and the action that we are taking, and also to exchange idea. And this is very interesting because we always keep in the factory this kind of culture of continuous improvement, but the chat was the opportunity to know that they were talking directly with with myself, and we could establish some discussions based on something that, in my opinion, were not top of the priority, but in fact, they were very important to control. So it was very positive. Also on the wearable, in the beginning, there were some questions regarding the wearable because we were, let's say, they thought that we wanted to control, to monitor all the flow, but they understood the reasons, of course, respecting all the privacy. They understood this, and this will also happen, will be also used for external company. It will be also become a sort of marketing tool. So we are developing this kind of application of the app and the wearable also for our, let's say, visitors that will come to Poggipolini to see and to visit our technologies.
Very good, Michele. Thank you very much. Thanks for the answer.
Thank you.
I think we have another guest today, correct?
Thank you very much, Massimo. Thanks for the presentation, everybody else. Hi, everyone. Just to recap, I'm working with a sports marketing agency based here in Switzerland. So we are representing some of the top rights holders from FIFA, UEFA, IOC, you know, you name it, any sport, we are representing them. So basically what I'm trying to bring here is more the fan angle to innovation. I think amongst most of us, we have sports fans in one form or another. And what I tend to find in my experience is that for companies, we tend to want to treat our employees as brand ambassadors, but we forget that on the onset, we are all fans of some sort. So my approach here in this presentation is trying to see, okay, what technologies are we using with our different rights holder partners, and what we've been doing in the last few months to try and turn this around into becoming meaningful tools for employee experience in the workplace. So basically, how do you activate smart employees or smart humans, as we've heard in this presentation, not to be brand ambassadors, but more to be fans? Can we move across, please, Marcello? Yeah, so maybe also most of you would have realized in your different spheres of whether it's private life or work life, one thing is very common is that the global lockdown has triggered quite a lot of wave of innovation, which you may have touched, whether you're getting on the bus or you're trying to buy something in the shop. I think we've seen quite a lot of flurry in terms of new platforms, new technologies that have been popping up. And also on the other hand, as we stay at home, we're looking for different forms of entertainment. I mean, I saw my kids now are looking more at Netflix, something that they didn't literally consider about in the last few months. And you know, the whole ecosystem of sport has also evolved in these last few months to fill the gap where live sport is released to take all our attention. But now that we're at home, how do you introduce things like, you know, AI, AR, and VR, which are all underpinned by data analytics to fill that gap of live sports? And I think, you know, for us as a company, you know, it's not something that is new. You know, we've been working with companies now since last year, in particular around AI for powering content optimization. And we've tried to see how can we ramp this up in these difficult times. So really using our technology to ingest a lot of live streams and real-time AI automated video indexing that we've been doing, and try and put this content in the right direction where they're really wanted in that moment. Push through Marcella, please. So here, I think what you see here is what we termed the COVID effect graph. So we tracked, you know, live streams, you know, at the beginning of the year, right up to when mid-March, when most sports were stopping or most countries were locking down. And, you know, for us, we try to see what are the different content consumption and streaming patterns in that period. So for most of our clients, in particular World Rugby or FIFA or FIS, they were rushing through to try and promote previous matches via YouTube, via their own private channels, you know, via live stream. But what happened was that you would find not only legal streams, but also illegal streams, which are popping up. And these illegal streams tended to increase during the lockdown, meaning that more of people were now consuming content behind closed doors. So what we've tried to do with our partners is try and implement our AI technology to identify these illegal streams, but not only just shut them down, but actually offer more legal content to those streamers, which they can actually, you know, pay for if they want to, and, you know, monetize for the rights holders. So for us, it was quite a good way to try and test out existing technology, but in a more advanced way. And here again, we have an example from cycling. I'm sure there are some cyclists amongst ourselves. And what you see here is an image of a young chap who made history last year, not only as one of the youngest riders around, but the first Colombian to win the Tour de France. And one of the technologies which was being used here is something that we're also seeing coming through online, which you'll see in the next slide that Marcella will present, where basically, you know, if you're in a peloton, you can make different predictions in terms of, okay, what are the key moments that are likely to come up around the corner, and how can we try and gather as much data around that to try and give the viewer a more personalized view of what's coming around the corner. And we've been doing this now in the last couple of weeks for the digital Swiss 5 event. And for them, it was more, okay, there's not going to be Tour de Suisse this year for sure, but then how can we still engage the fans at home who are the key viewers of our content? And obviously using the data from the guys who were on their bikes, were able to obviously you know, show more personalized moments during that virtual race. And then from an AR and VR perspective, I mean, we have clients like NASCAR, for example, who are also coming back from the lockdown, but nevertheless, you know, fans are still stuck at home. You know, how do you get a near live experience while you're sitting in your lounge? And for us, you know, virtual reality technology, you know, is now capable to give fans, you know, that immersive, you know, premium in-stadium feeling, or in live side of the track feeling, which we've been able to obviously bring to their lounges. So it's something that we are pushing, and hopefully, you know, we continue to do that post COVID-19 as well. But having said that, you know, there are opportunities that companies can try and already start implementing some of these. You know, for us as a company, we started last year, not only with our rights holders, but also internally as a company, look at some of the technologies that we're deploying out in the market to see how we can drive the whole employee experience topic forward. And the first one of that was more around, relevant content as part of onboarding. I think we can all admit that onboarding is a very stressful time for employees. You get inundated with a lot of content, and how do you try and demystify what you need for your job and what perhaps you need to read a little bit later in the year. So with obviously our technology, you can say, okay, look, what is relevant content at what time for an employee, and try and deploy this content when available. And also good for knowledge sharing amongst the employees themselves. Gamification is also one other way. We have a tool called SMART that we are using. So it's basically an employee advocacy tool where employees, can not only introduce new content in the ecosystem, but they can also, consume and share this content out to their networks. And there are some gamification features built into that, which they can explore as well. Then we have realistic experiences when it comes to training. It's another area that obviously for us with the lockdown, travel is curtailed globally. Now if you want to travel to Italy, I mean, I'm in Switzerland. If you want to go to Italy, you have to get a written permission from, the director of HR, try to understand why you need to go there. And in the past, in our finance department, we had a lot of people coming from our Italy office to come and get training in Switzerland. So obviously this is not required going forward once you put a bit more augmented reality experience in the training. Collaboration is another thing that obviously we've seen going quite up during this COVID time. We're working from home. Some cultures are not built towards collaboration, so you're more, forced in essence by circumstances to try and collaborate a little bit better. And ultimately, the final part being enhancement of employee engagement. I think for most companies, this was a very, very challenging time. And how do you keep employees engaged and motivated in a very difficult period? And I think the whole idea of being able to reach relevant employees, the relevant time, relevant content to keep their job moving, something that was quite helpful as well. I believe this is my last slide coming up. I think I didn't bring this slide up to try and scare you with this image, but rather just to try and share, as Maria said, I think the role of work is certainly going to be changing in the future, and more importantly, COVID-19 has set the tone for that change, and the new normal is something that every company is going to have to try and grasp, so to say. And I'm happy to take any questions along the line of what I presented.
Fungai, fantastic contents. Thank you. I wanted to make a question from your point of view in this environment of smart handset and smart wearables for sports. We all have impression that the attention to health now after COVID is increased, and the ability to work out that we had, even if at home, increase their attention to have also a better and healthy life.
Yes.
So you see the future of this e-health handset and the wearables, the adoption by the people?
Yeah, I mean, for us, funny that you bring this topic up. We had a presentation last week in Germany on the topic of fit tech, so not fintech, but fit tech rather. And we've been trying some applications which are driven by wearables last year with a company based in Denmark, where we're actually seeing companies at the forefront of driving these topics around the whole idea of healthy employees. I think the whole idea that companies are now at the forefront of healthy living rather than something that we are bringing from home. We have a series called B2Run. It's a series which is mainly focused on companies to drive employee fitness. So for us, I think it's a very important topic that you bring up. I think it's going to be very crucial going forward. But I think the key element here is that it's going to be driven from a business or an employer perspective rather than something that I, as a personal individual, will go out and try and seek for myself.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I apologize, there's my kids in the background that you probably hear. So
no, but this is the human side of the story. We are doing business within families. I think it's a wonderful, let me say, context that we are experimenting, and we really like to see us in this new context. It's making us more real and more attached to the real life.
Thank you for asking the questions. I particularly appreciated the case studies that we presented, and I really liked both the presentation of Michele, which gave us a real authentic way of leading change and being close to the people, and I also liked idea of trying to bring a little bit of contamination, which perhaps it's not the right word in this moment, but that's how we call it in innovation. So seeing what in some specific context is being done, because perhaps they are at the forefront of engagement. For example, the case of sport fans, and how we can leverage those technologies to bring them back into our companies for engaging employees, and so on and so forth. So I would leave some space for questions, if there are any.
Yes, I actually can read a couple of the questions, everyone. We have one from Antonio, who asks us, from our perspectives, which role do universities and in general the education system play in building curricula which are more aligned to the skills and abilities mentioned? And how do you see companies being involved in that?
Yeah, I can answer that question. Well, universities in particular, and business schools in general, so curricula for people who are graduate or undergraduate, or even for executives, reorganizing themselves very quickly in this moment, both from I would say a technological perspective, so being able to switch to online training in a very fast way and a very effective way. Many of them, particularly from what I see in Italy and in the countries where we are present, were already holding training courses. But in particular, I can say that I want to enrich the perspective from the company's point of view. Companies started asking us, for example, to deliver virtual training, and not very expected from us. So we thought that some companies would prefer to stop their training and wait for a physical classroom present. But we were surprised to see many companies deciding to go on and to start experimenting with virtual training, even if they hadn't done it before. So it's like that virtual training is starting to be accepted also as a way of training people that is comparable to physical training. And this is true for university as well. It was kind of weird before from companies to see people who were attending online courses from university, but now it's becoming normal. So it was just a cultural barrier which is being rapidly removed, because actually there was no reason, but it's happening. And universities are reorganizing because there is the demand from companies, both in terms of technologies for training, but also in terms of content. And we are ourselves collaborating with several universities and business schools on building curricula that help people and companies to achieve those aspects which we believe are particularly useful in this moment of being smart humans. In terms of leadership, leading in a VUCA context, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, about techno-business skills, about design thinking, agile, and all those methodologies that, if you make your own, are particularly helpful in this moment. So I see universities playing a very important role and being very reactive in this
Marcello,
moment.
just allow me to add a little note on that.
Please.
While the education systems and universities or in general, which are quite like rigid systems, are slowly shifting towards, and I'm not sure what Antonio means exactly by the skills and abilities mentioned, but when we talk about the soft skills and the human skills and the mindfulness skills, it is important to also mention that while these big rigid monsters and systems are slowly shifting towards acknowledging those other requirements on soft skills, I think that it's important to say that humans and individuals should take ownership and being proactive in starting to acquire such learnings and reach out to alternative ways. I mean, in those days, we can reach out to any kind of education if we plan to. So if we plant the seed of awareness and we're aware that we need such skills, universities can take care of covering the bulk of the skills we need, but it's up to us to be proactive and take the step forward to have the whole comprehensive suite. Eventually, universities and companies will follow for sure. Thanks.
Okay, so we had another question, I think, that is quite appropriate for Michele to answer. How do organizations deal with the issues of employee data privacy when it comes to deployment of AI and AR? What do you think, Michele?
Well, yes, we have to, let's say, first of all, we have to divide between AI and AR. So in our company, in our organization, the AI is applied to, let's say, manufacturing processes, so data that are coming from the Internet of Things. Okay, if the question is regarding the wearables, so the anti-COVID monitoring application that we are doing is absolutely anonymous, and all the data are not kept in the factory. So we don't have any access to all this data. So we are absolutely aligned with the GDPR, which is, let's say, based on the Italian law, and of course, for the COVID-19 is developing. But of course, we have always a focus to respect the, let's say, the data and the sensitive data of our employees. On the augmented reality, what we are testing at the moment, it's, let's say, a gamification. So we are, let's say, testing right now an opportunity to have a sort of, let's say, talk like we're having right now, but using avatar, and to be inside the space, to be inside, for example, our new center of excellence. So in that case, we don't have any control on the data. It's like being part of a call, but in a different dimension. But of course, the data, the privacy is absolutely key in this moment, and especially the people today are very, when you talk about monitoring, or when you talk about I can get your data, or I can film you using the thermal scanner, but we are not filming them because the thermal scanner is not recording anything. It's only giving us an output if the, let's say, temperature is beyond 37.5. But on the other side, we forget that we have probably 1,000 applications in our phone, and they know exactly what we are doing and where we are. So always we have to try to, let's say, have a trade-off in all this.
Great, thank you. Okay, yeah. How about Amanda, do we have any other comments?
Amanda, I want to highlight on this. I think that it's a very important question about the respect of privacy and data and private data. I think that in any case, this is a hot topic, because despite now we can do projects that are respectful of GDPR and so many other regulations. I think that looking forward in the future, I think we are in front of a big question, no? Because who is fully adopting and leveraging IoT potential, Internet of Things, and let me say somehow also smart human connected, it's leveraging but this is impacting on the respect for the privacy. So I think that this is a great question, because actually this will be separating companies and of course nations that are able to exploit at maximum this kind of technologies. I think China top of the list, and nations that can limit this adoption. It's a big question. It's an ethical question that we can discuss now, but I think it's also an important balance between benefits versus constraints versus damages that this can drive. But at the moment, all the projects we are analyzing are very respectful of GDPR and privacy, data privacy.
Thank you very much. Well, one for Mr. Fungai. Okay, we have a point of curiosity from Ariel and our participants. He asks, or she asks, would you agree that for most team and contact sports, avatar tech would perhaps be a possible way to move forward in their new normal or the next normal? What do you think?
Oh, you're
I
muted.
think you're on mute.
Sorry, I didn't realize I'm on mute. Totally agree with your assessment. We actually have a white paper that my team and I have been working on, which is due out on Monday next week, where we're trying to hypothesize the reopening of different games, but without spectators. And as if you're a football fan, you know that in Germany, the Bundesliga kicked off over the weekend, but obviously there were no fans in the stadium. Now, what we were looking at in the white paper is, okay, how do you create some virtual moments, whether it's some avatar of fans that you put in the stadium, also involve other actual athletes themselves. So we've seen this already being tried in Formula One, where the guys are in a virtual cockpit, etc. So I totally agree with you, and all I would say is look out for a white paper next week, and we'll touch on this topic actually in detail as well. So there's something that for sure we'll see on the horizon.
Right, wonderful. Okay, so next one for Marcello. We have a question again from Ariel. It's clear that in terms of medium or methodology that learning needs to shift toward virtual and online technology. However, in terms of specific content in the present moment of flux that we're in, what or how can an organization refocus its L&D lens when everything is still in a movement of unpredictable unveiling?
Yeah, well, the thing is that if you think about it, change is not something that happens in a specific moment. So it was true that COVID-19 can be considered a black swan, so something unexpected, and then the situation is not about what's going to be next, it's not clear. But this is the situation that we need to understand that will become a current situation of continuous and unpredictable change. Our world today is so interconnected, so based on some assumptions that are actually very, very fragile. The way our value chains are built, the way we move knowledge, the way we move people, the way we live. It's based on principles which have not been proven for an Earth which has a fixed capacity and reaching 9-10 billion people. So we don't know what will happen. And COVID-19 is just one example. So the focus is not on how to respond to COVID-19, but it's on how to respond to an environment which is volatile, unpredictable, complex, and ambiguous. And it's about working on mindset. You can do this if you build on the emotional intelligence skills and the mindfulness that we were talking about before. But if you also think about how your company can play a role in a future that is evolving by building a long-term strategy, for example, for technology. We work on building technology roadmaps which allow companies to understand which are the skills that they will need in 5, 10, 20 years and how do they want to get there, by reskilling, upskilling, or hiring. So the thing is that sometimes what we perceive is that the training plans of company are done on a period that is too short with respect to the corporate strategy. So the suggestion is to take a little bit of a long-term view from this view and try to understand what will be needed next. And not just focusing on what we need to do in July or September, because the problem we will face will be of this type of sort. So we hope that this situation will solve quickly, but we have to be ready to manage this type of environment. And it's a matter of mindset, it's a matter of skills. So digital dexterity, I mentioned before, which is not about being able to use one specific technology. It's about being able to scan the environment to understand what is going to be relevant and thinking about how to include something that is relevant from the environment into our business as usual, and make the fact of using new frontier technologies become the new business as usual. So this is the switch that I believe to be done.
Thank you, Marcello. That's really interesting. We had another question that I thought would be really interesting to hear from Massimo and Maria, but also from Michele, as he is a business owner in Italy, which has also suffered from some previous recessions, and he's gotten through them. So I think this question from Fabio is very relevant. It says, the use of these fantastic technologies requires some serious investment. Don't you think this may be a limit, especially for those SMEs that will suffer greatly from the coming economic recession?
I think that, yes, of course, there is an investment to do, and not only on the technology part. As we highlighted, also the smart human transformation is also important. And also this requires budget. It cannot be done internally. You need a change agent. But this is something that is reprioritizing the investments. So yes, this requires investments. Short answer, yes, it requires investments, but probably other investments will be deleted because this will become more important. It's a refocusing of our budgets. It's not an extension of the budget, I believe.
Perhaps I can ask something on this. I think this moment needs a rethinking of not only of the demand of new technologies, but also of the offer of new technologies. Many technologies companies are very product oriented, but they are not very innovative in terms of business models. So if they are not, and you are an SMEs, try to stimulate offerings based on new business models. You don't need to buy things, you can rent it. So think about how you can really disrupt the business as usual, and asking from your suppliers to develop also new ways of getting access to what you need in this moment, and not necessarily based on economic transaction that imply an exchange of ownership.
Michele, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, in my opinion, it's a very interesting question. Of course, I also agree with what Massimo said. I think that especially in the SME, it's very important that the ownership, so the CEO, the entrepreneur, has got already the mindset for digitalization. Because it's true, you have to invest, but probably you have to invest not that much as you think. Because the question I asked myself some time ago was, it's expensive, okay, I have to invest in this direction, but if I don't do this, where will we be in 3 years? So I think it's something that is very important to try to, let's say, keep in mind. But today, if we, let's say, decide to invest in digitalization, in IoT, in, let's say, new way of communication and so on, because it's nice to have, because it's marketing, because it's nice to be out, let's say, in the press, it doesn't work. So I think that when we talk with other entrepreneurs, with other colleagues, it's always important to try to bring in that kind of mindset. Then budget is very important. Today, the budget is absolutely important because everyone are suffering on sales that are winding down. But we always have to try, if you have this kind of mindset in your vision, to do it. And in the end, it will be not more expensive than other actions that probably are in the budget of the company. If you look, for example, to events, to shows, and so on, they're super expensive, very expensive to be there. So because we cannot do, for example, any more shows, events, during the next 6-8 months, we have the opportunity, let's say, to distribute that investment or part of that investment into something new, but that will make the difference only if the mindset of the company is right. Otherwise, are wasted.
Very true. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
fully agree that the changes is coming and we cannot skip it. So we need to be ready. I want to share a nice anecdote. A very lucky guy, a very smart but lucky rock star called Travis Scott, on the 26th of April did a concert with the 12 million participants. Just because he was months ago, he worked in a very new way to do a concert. It was like a video game where he was acting, but with a lot of special effects, computer-based, and all the participants were connected with laptop or visors. During the COVID, he did the 12 million spectators. I think that this is a sign that something is changing. We like or we don't like, something is changing, and who is ready for that will lead in the new normal. He will be not, unfortunately, I don't think will be surviving. This is the reality, so it's important one.
Okay, so just wrapping up, we have another question for Fungi. How can the employee experience application model that you shared work in other contexts such as banking, government services, or healthcare?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I think maybe looking at a couple of examples, I think these are applicable across different industries anyway. I mean, I'm doing my MBA at the moment in London with the Cass Business School. And as you know, it's right in the city of London, so the banking area of London. And I've got a lot of colleagues who work in banking, and I always talk to them about how they're doing, and we obviously meet once a month at the end of each month for the executive MBA. And one thing that is very clear is that they are really, really under a lot of pressure, especially being based in London during this Brexit period, now the COVID-19 also, which has just started. And we're talking about how can their companies try and mitigate the differences that they go through, the different pressures that they're going through. And we're talking about AI as an opportunity to be used to try and detect employee facial features. Again, this is breaching the whole data privacy aspect. And the reason why we want to introduce this is to try and curb the possibility of things like burnouts. So you spoke of burnouts earlier on, Maria, and that's one area where we've seen the technology being used in companies where you can also try and see the different emotion, the different facial behaviors of somebody to say, okay, look, you're getting to a point where it's getting perhaps a burnout soon, and your HR manager needs to intervene and try and say, look, maybe you need to take a rest, or you need to spend a bit more time at home. That's one area. And the second one, which is a topic that I didn't touch on, which is blockchain and the whole tokenization aspect. And for me, I see this being useful in governmental organizations. Why do I say that? I had a session a couple of years ago at the Maastricht Business School on change management, and we had an opportunity to visit the local municipality of Maastricht and how they went through the whole process of change management, from being a very analog organization to being a very, very digital organization. And one thing was certain in that all the old employees had to go through some form of retraining to try and meet the new demands of what they're expected to do. But how do you motivate employees in that kind of setting who've been used to doing things in a certain way to undertake new trainings? So for where I proposed here was more along the lines of giving some tokenization tokens as motivators for people to be able to undertake further training, which they can then use as part of the whole broader ecosystem of the city in which they live in. So that's one area.
Thank you so much. Okay, so just another question. This one is for Massimo. Is the Smart Human Jellyfy approach only for leaders, or is it also for the workforce?
That's a good question. Actually, the quick answer is yes. It's so for all the workforce, and I explain you why. Because actually, as Maria was saying before, I think that with the introduction of artificial intelligence and automations, a number of operational roles will be covered gradually by machines. So what we observe is the need for humans, for people in the company to elevate in terms of skills, as Maria described it pretty well, and elevate in terms of the hard skills, and elevating also in terms of soft skills. So what was the kind of training leaders had in the past? It will be a kind of training that will be required also for the lower part of the pyramid, because these soft skills, managing empathic relationship with people, colleagues, clients, and having intuition, having empathy and so on, and emotional intelligence and so on, all these things are not only leaders' requirements, but employee requirements. So yes, we talk about leadership program, mindful leadership, but actually most of this needs to be also introduced and enhanced in any employee of the company.
Okay, so the very last question for Maria, if we do have time, is how can I accelerate the shift to a smart human culture?
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Actually, like we were discussing earlier, I think that as educational systems and companies are slowly shifting, because the skills of the future will be the present and no longer the future eventually. I think that this can be activated now if individuals, if people within organizations, whether it's the middle management or the younger or the CEOs or the HRs, take initiative to prioritize this. And it doesn't mean that the programs must be the biggest program and it must be at the top of the priorities, but little actions and just being mindful about it and is what will make things shift faster. So the whole mindset is, we're trying lately in the last decade to be so productive, and we're trying to become like robots, but in fact, in the future, we will be asked to be more like humans. So this is actually the mindset that I would say to bring into awareness. Trying to be more human is basically the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. I think that's our last question if we want to wrap things up.
Great.
Yeah, great. So on our side, thank you again for being with us. And I leave the last word to Massimo for a connection with the next events that we have in this series.
So basically, this was our fifth session of our series of webinars, and there are 10 that are in plan. And basically, you can go on the Jellify website, Middle East/events, and all our social platforms to check what are the next events that are happening. There will be a link for a replay of this session and all of the previous sessions. And you can also sign up for the rest of the series and all of them, and you'll receive an invite for when they happen. I think next week it's falling on a Wednesday instead of Tuesday, but for the rest we're sticking to our Tuesday dates. So Massimo, if you have anything to add, I'm just laying the ground for the future.
I'm pretty excited to see that 70% of the people who connected is still on with half an hour extension.
A delay. Thank you.
The level of attention is high to these topics. I want to thank all of you for organizing, Marcello and Maria first. Of course, our special guest, Michele and Fungai, who shared the fantastic cases, really. And always, I'm very appreciating our support with from marketing, Amanda, Giovanni, and now since today, also welcome Christina. So thank you to all of you. I really enjoyed, and let's go ahead.
Thank you. Great
Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.